The folks behind the Las Vegas version of Phantom decided to double cast the roles of the Phantom and his obsession, Christine Daae, in order to put on 10 shows a week without destroying the vocal cords of the actors in these very strenuous roles. Tonight we have a Phantom, Brent Barrett, and a Christine, Sierra Boggess. Barrett, a former star on the soap opera All My Children, is a stage veteran who has starred on Broadway in Chicago and West Side Story, and in London in Kiss Me Kate. For Boggess, this is a big chance to step up into the lead of a major production after traveling with the tour of Les Miserables as an understudy. Brent and Sierra, welcome to the Strip.
Thanks, Miles.
Thank you.
We're so glad to have you here.
Thanks.
Any objections to your descriptions?
I'm fine. I'm fine with it.
I'm fine with Brent's, yeah. No, that's great.
So it's been a few months since you guys started, and how is everything feeling?
It's still pretty amazing every night. It still kind of is like, oh, this is really happening for me. That I still just feel like that, even though we've been open since June, but it still feels kind of surreal a little bit to be doing this show.
And Brent?
I'm having a great time. I didn't know what to expect, coming out to Las Vegas and doing a legitimate theater show with the entertainment that you normally find here. But the audiences are very responsive. They're very quiet. They're listening. They're following the story. You don't see too many people getting up in between and going out and getting their gin and tonics, because just to warn you, there are no cup holders in our theater.
Right.
Or as another interviewer said, in the showroom, and I said, this isn't a showroom. This is a theater.
And that's one of the things that Steve. I mean, Steve obviously did a story on USA Today about the theater and about how incredible it is. And I think that's one of the things that you find so striking when you go in there, especially because we've lived here so long and been in so many of the rooms and theaters and
we've seen Phantom at other places.
Right. And we're just so impressed and blown away that they just went all out. You really feel like you're in that opera house.
But now let me ask you something about that, because one of the things that comes up with some of the shows in Las Vegas is that the theater itself is almost like a star in the show. And like in some cases, like Le Rev is one example I can think of, maybe to some extent Ka, the performance is almost secondary to the spectacle around you. Was there any concern that the human element of the performance would get drowned out by all of the bells and whistles around you?
Well, I think that's always a concern when you try to add a lot of spectacle to a show that has been so successful for 20 years. But I think they were very smart in ratcheting up the special effects, but and certainly this was Hal's baby, to make sure that the core of the show, which is the emotional core of the show, which is the love story, the unrequited love story between the Phantom and Christine, and then the love story between Raoul and Christine, really was the centerpiece. So the walking into the theater, I think it just helps transport you back to that to that time, and then you can just sit back and let the story unfold.
When we were there for opening night, and the show started and the chandelier starts to move, people were clapping.
Isn't it great?
Yeah.
Do people do that every night?
Not every night, but they were so excited for opening, and also when we started previews, even just our very first show for an audience, people were doing just that because everybody was so excited that Phantom is going to be in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
So we had that response for quite a while, and every once in a while, then we get that again, and it feels really amazing. And I think even more so than if we had that every night, because every audience is different.
Right.
Some audiences we think are really not into it, and then they jump to their feet, at the curtain call, and so it's kind of like it's kind of a nice present to get it every once in a while instead of every night. So.
Are there days of the week that are predictably lower key and more exciting?
Well, they're working on our schedule right now because we have 10 o'clock shows, and that's always hard, is to do a 10 p.m. show. It's so late for Phantom, and so they're figuring out what works best. Like our Friday night at 10 o'clock for some reason no one was coming, but they tell us something about travel days and stuff like that. So they're figuring that out, but every night so far we've had a standing ovation. So
Do you ever get a feeling though, like you say, like you're doing a show like at 10:30 on a Friday night, and you're thinking, oh my God, this is like my best show ever, and there's only 16 people here.
Well, that's the thing about live theater. You can't plan that,
Right.
And every night's a different experience. And so if you're having an incredible show and there are only 16 people in the audience, you just have to appreciate that it's flowing so freely.
We have some people in the chat who are asking, are Vegas audiences dressing better?
I don't know. We get a really. I think. Well, I can't see out there. There's only one point in the show where the flames come up after the mausoleum that I can even get a feel of how many people are in the audience. I know Tim, who plays Raul, he's always clocking. He's doing a head count during that first scene to find out.
He has some crazy math brain where he can just look out there and say, "There's 300 people in the first section."
Is he right?
Our stage manager said he's only ever off by 70 people. Wow. Isn't that amazing?
That is amazing.
Yeah, that's not my brain. So.
Well, he started out in the business world, so he's counting bums in the seats.
Have you guys actually sat in the audience and watched your counterparts?
Absolutely, yeah.
And criticized them?
Well, when we were during techs and when we were having run-throughs before the show opened, we all had to be in the theater at the same time. So we would take turns watching the show, and so I think because of that, I certainly appreciate everything that they have done with this show. Yeah. It makes it very exciting to actually have an image in your head of what's going on, of what the audience is experiencing as the show progresses.
Can I ask you, this is completely related but not, you were on All My Children.
Yeah. Ages ago.
But have you seen All My Children lately?
No. I never watched.
Okay, this question won't work then. They're doing this.
Have you?
Well,
is that what you're doing at work?
I work in news, and so I see.
So you just click the channel and
watching Days at 1 o'clock. Whatever.
See what Tad Martin is up to these days.
Right. Still on there after all these years.
No.
But I guess what I was wondering is they have this new way that they're shooting. The show. They're using like a steady. I don't know what kind of a camera it is. It's some kind of reality thing, and they're making kind of everything more real. Do you think that bringing this show, say from Broadway to Las Vegas or whatever, and having that element of the theater makes it a better show than the one in New York? Because you do have that whole theater thing. I know Steve
that was a stretch, but I'm impressed with the way you actually managed to get to your question.
I'm not quite sure how we got there, but I understand your question.
It's all about reality.
Yeah, okay.
Well, the thing about this show, there isn't a lot of reality about this show.
Right.
But because everything is heightened in Phantom of the Opera, it's almost it's a melodrama. Does it help? I think cutting the show down and cutting some of the, I hesitate to say extraneous things, because that will not go very well with Andrew Lloyd Webber or Hal Prince. But paring it down and focusing more on the triangle love story,
right,
I think has helped the show.
Basically, we like it to be about us.
Right, exactly.
Well,
if we're not singing, we don't care.
Yeah, we don't really know what's going on.
Well, I was going to say, in 95 minutes, there really isn't much time for it to be about anything else.
Right.
Well, that's why they've double casted, because normally, because what we do in the show in the New York production takes place over 2.5 hours. Here they've condensed it down to 90 minutes. So those rest times, those vocal rest times that we would have in the New York production are gone. So basically we're just, if I'm not on stage, I'm changing clothes, getting ready to go back on. There is no downtime. Mm-hmm. So, and doing 10 shows a week, and there's only an hour in between when we do 2 shows a day, I think they were very smart to double cast the show.
Now let's talk a little bit about your own careers. And they're so different. I mean, obviously you're a veteran.
Well, I'm much older, that's why.
Yeah.
Now, actually, is that typically the case? I mean, I don't mean it to be specific, but I mean, is it typically the case that the Phantom is cast as somebody in their 30s or 40s versus?
Oh, thank you.
I was just hoping I got that right. And then the